Hey guys, this is Heretic. In this video, I'm going to go over all of the Elite Wars maps for War and Order, and I'm going to discuss different strategies that your alliance can use. Stick around for later in the video, where I'm going to show you how you can get copies of all of the maps that I show in this video and more completely free. Elite Wars is still my favorite event in War and Order because it's where teamwork really matters. Organization, timing, and decision making matter so much in this event. A more organized alliance can be a stronger looking alliance if they play the map correctly. So in this guide, I want to help leaders, commanders, and the regular alliance members understand the different maps and how they can use them to their advantage. So let's get started. And before I actually start showing the maps, let's talk about a basic thing that you need to use that's outside of the actual battlefield, and that's where I am right now. Within Elite Wars, if you go up here on the top right, and this is where everybody in your alliance needs to understand this, especially the leaders that are setting this up. You go up to more groups, and within here, you can divide your alliance into different groups. You can use these groups, and when people understand who they are, like what group they're a part of, you can use this in all of the different events. So in Fortress Wars, for example, you could say, hey, listen, fire team is going to go crazy and they're going to attack everybody. Do not follow them. Flankers, here's what I want you to do. I want you to focus on these castles. Main team, follow our lead. That sort of thing. So we have it divided up into 4 teams. We have our fire team, which is our crazy kind of big spender group. We have our flankers, which I'm a part of. And our flankers are responsible for just going on the outsides of the map. It could be the top or the bottom. We split up, and a lot of times our fire team and our flankers, they really don't need any direction at all. Then we have our main team. This is the core of our players. These are the players that are going to be following the leader exactly, like go to 1, go to 5, stay at 10, leave at a certain time, that sort of thing. And then we have our blockers. Much like the fire team and the flankers, blockers most of the time don't need any instructions. The blockers may go with the main team at the beginning, but they know that their responsibility is to get back to your base whenever it's under threat. Right? So when you see another team making a big push down one of the flanks, their responsibility is to get home, keep that enemy from reaching your castle. They can also be used to block other towers along the way. So one of the big strategies that you'll hear about a lot is blocking, right? You want to block the main players. If you can keep people in a battle. So just so that everyone understands, blocking in Elite War and in Fortress War and other events is completely different than in Elite Adventures. In Elite Adventures, you go with no troops. You're just sending a beast. You're trying to get there as quick as possible so you can start that battle, and then 5-10 seconds later, another person can go in. That will not work in Elite Wars. In Elite Wars, you need to send an actual march so that battle actually happens. Otherwise, it'll be over so fast that you can't keep it going. So your goal is to tie up the enemy, right? As long as they're in battle, they can't retreat. They can't get back to their castle to defend it. They can't move forward, right? So it's both ways for them to get back to their base or to get to your base. Blocking works in both circumstances. So I would say long term, you want to have something like this. You could have, instead of flankers, you could have flanker A, flanker B, and then you could just swap them, the top path or the bottom path. We do that with our flankers and our fire team. Our fire team's strong enough, and our blockers. Our fire team is strong enough that they can pretty much hold one side of the map. the flanker team has more players so that they're able to hold the opposite side. And we flip those. So it's not always the same. So let's go ahead and let's get into the actual maps. So this is the 3-4-5-4-3 map. The big thing to note here is when you send the main up the middle, when they get to 10, it is very, very difficult to support or reinforce them with your flankers or your speed group. So you could, as a strategy, go ahead and send some of your stronger players with your main group and treat one of your sides as more blockers. That way, when they win at 10 and they move forward to 18, that they have a really good chance of making it all the way. Once you get to 18, then you could get your flankers, take them back to home base, have them refill, and then they could update the sides. Or it all depends, because these are very long marches. One strategy to keep in mind is that if you see the enemy moving towards here, like from 18 to 10, and they're going slow, there is a chance for you to skip them. So, make sure, on the other hand, right, make sure when you have your main group going from 2 to 10 that you have at least one or two players who are able to beat the enemy to 10 and hold it while the rest of the group catches up. It's really important that you do that. Otherwise, a very fun map. It's very attack-oriented. So let's go ahead and move to the next map. So this is a 2-3-5-3-2 map. This one is a lot better on the defensive side in that your main group is always supported all the way through. The weird thing here is whenever you get to the 12 castle, your main group needs to decide either to go up or down. I would recommend that it goes to the less strong of those two groups to reinforce it. You could then say you have your flankers, you have two different groups of flankers, and they make it to 14 and 15. When the main group arrives, you could reinforce the side that is less strong or has less players with the other flankers. So, we have a speed group that goes along the top, and then a flankers that goes along the bottom. If they both got to 15 and 14, whichever side that the main goes to, you could take some of those flankers off of that and put them on the other side just to kind of balance things out, because that's always important. When you do get down to the castles next to the enemy base, it's important that you balance those groups as much as you possibly can, and you reinforce each other, which is a lot easier when you only have two castles in that position. So this is a relatively easy map. Your blockers on your side then only have to defend two castles, right? So they can lock up on two castles. The same goes, when your enemy chooses what to do, they're either going to go to 15 or 14 to help, right? If you make it that far, it gives you a lot better options and easier choices to make. If you see a large group of the enemy or their strongest players going to 15, then you know that your 14 would be able to then get into that castle, and 15 is where you're going to want to block. All right, so let's move to the next map. This is the 5-3-5 map. It's a short, attack-friendly map. Much like the 5-4-4-5 map, the middle area, you have long marches, which are harder to block. But unlike that one, you can support the middle team, the main team, from 6 and 8. So you can support 7 from 6 and 8, which helps out quite a bit. On this map, it's super simple at the beginning. The instructions should be take 6, 7, and 8. If you just held those castles the whole match, you would be done. A good idea here is to rush to 6, 7, and 8 and make the enemy choose where to go, because they're going to have to divide up into 5 castles. There's 5 lanes potentially to get to their base. So it makes it a lot easier. If they focus on 10, 11, and 12, then that exposes 9 and 13. Or if they divide up, it gives you a choice on where to go. You have to be good about blocking in that case if they slip by you, but it allows you as the attacker the advantage of making a counter move that could be in your favor. All right, let's go to the next map. So before we get going with this map, I wanted everyone to know that these maps are all available in Discord. Look in the description of this video and I have a link to my Discord, and within there you can download all of these maps with the numbers and without the numbers on the towers. It'll help your alliance plan. It'll help you build strategies for your opponents. It's just something that you can use, I hope. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with this map. This is the 3-4-1-4-3 map. This is a very interesting map. Again, whoever takes the 8 in the middle has the advantage. Again, what you want is to be able to concentrate your forces as much as you can. I would rather have 4-8-7 or 9-8-12 than to take those 10, 11, 5, and 6 ones. Because if you do that, so at the very beginning of the match, of the event, you're going to have to send your main or one of your groups to 2, and then they're going to have to split between 5 and 6 because you don't want to leave those open. And then they're going to go to 8. So just by splitting your team at that point, you're in trouble. So I would, again, send at least 1 castle forward to 8 as fast as you can while the main group catches up. If you do that, your main group could just pick one side and go that way. It doesn't really matter. Just tell them to get to 8. Your flankers would then hold 4 and 7, and when it's appropriate, looking at the enemy, move forward to 9 and 12. Here, at this point, you have to make a decision. You have to look and see what the enemy does. But again, use this to your advantage. If the enemy goes, if they split between 10 and 11, have some blockers blocking 8, move the majority of your force to one of the 2 sides, and you have the advantage. And the great thing here is that your flankers can support on 10 and 11 from the 9 and 12 castles. Once you do get your main to either 10 or 11, moving forward to 14 should just be pretty simple. Again, just kind of watch what's going on. All right, so let's move to the next map. All right, so this is the 2-3-2-1-2-3-2 map. It's not the most number of towers that you'll face, but it has a very interesting configuration. And I do like this map a lot. It's my favorite. So the reason that it's my favorite is because there's many points at which the enemy and you have to divide up your team. First, at 4, at 8, and then at 12, you have to divide. So there's no easy path for the middle group. There's no easy way for them to go. But, on the other hand, your flankers are able to support them. So when you first start the match, I would say flankers to 6 and 7, main to 4, or it doesn't really matter, right? At that point, it doesn't matter. They could go 1, 2, 3, 6, and then go to 8. The important thing is that they would then be able to go to 8. When they're going to 8, your 6 and 7, your flankers, should be moving to 9 and 10. And they should hold that 9 and 10 so that your main is able to hold the 8 and defend that. Then the 8, your main group, would move to either 9 or 10 or divide up and then kind of repeat that process. Eventually going all the way to the 14 and 15, which to me gives a very good advantage to the attacker because, well, it's on both sides, right? The defender only has to block 2 castles, but the attacker then can get to 2 castles, and then they can just adapt to the enemy. If the enemy goes to the top, then you can go from the bottom. The enemy, the cool thing that they have here, and I'll show you how to kind of counter that, is that the flankers, or one side, it makes it much more difficult for them to kind of balance out and help the other side, if you see what I mean. So if you have everybody on 15 and 14, the enemy could look at that. They could probe it, right? And when they probe it, they could pick the side that's the weakest, and they could go to that quickly. And what happens is the other side then has to adapt, and for them to adapt, they have to go back to 12 and then over, which takes a little bit more time. What I would probably do is balance out 14 and 15 with my main group, and then keep my strongest players on 12 and have them adapt. If you're waiting for a counter strike, then what you would want to do is tie up either 14 or 15 while the rest of your group goes the other side. That's the best way to do it. Tie up one side and then overpower the other. But you have to be smart. Your team has to be really good at blocking. You could move some of your main back to 12 and 13 if you're going to be blocking on 15, and then just keep that going. Just keep that battle going. A good way to do that is to send your blockers, let's say from 15 to 13, slowly, right? So the battle begins on 15, and you have them walking back to 13, and then one by one they could recall, and then recall back in and block that 15 just to keep that battle going, while the rest of your team goes 12, 14, base. All right, let's go to the next map. All right, this is another fun map, and it's the last map. So it is a 3-4-4-4-3 map. 18 total towers, which is the max that you see here, I believe. There may be a 19. So it is a good map both for attack and defense. On the defensive side, you only have 3 to worry about. On the attack side, you have support for your main at 9 and 10, and then again at 13 and 14 once your flankers have moved up to 16, 18. So in this, it's a little interesting in that your main group is going to have to pick between 5 and 6. So, they go to 2, obviously at the beginning, then you have to give them a direction on where to go next. So you need to either pick 9 or 10. And the other one is for your blockers. So if you have your main going to 6, your blockers need to stay on 2 and be ready to defend 5. Or they need to get to 5 and as kind of a distraction, a decoy for the enemy, get to 5 and then just block at 9. While your main goes from 6 to 10 to 14 to 17. Your flankers, super easy. It's a straight shot all the way across. They want to get to 8 and 11 at the beginning so that they can support both 9 and 10. If 9 is for blockers, don't worry about them. Move forward to 12 from the bottom, 8 to 12. While the flankers on the top would then support 10. Then your flankers would then obviously move forward to 18, right? Because they're not going to be able to help at 13 and 14. They're going to have to get to 18. And then from 18, they would be able to then support back to 14. There's trees in the way there, but I promise there is a line that goes through there. So from 16, you'd be able to help at 13, and at 18 you'd be able to help back at 14. Then once your main gets to 17, it's you're good there. All right, so I hope this helps. I hope that you take advantage of these maps so that you can map out, no pun intended, your own strategy for your alliance. And with that, take care.